Hello from South Philadelphia, where the Broad Street Bullies revolutionized the role of hockey's tough guy. Welcome to the show. You know, those bullies brought back a level of brutality to the NHL and also led the Flyers to back-to-back Stanley Cup championships. But nowadays, the rules have changed, and so have their roles. And a recent string of tragic events has the modern-day tough guy defending his very role in the sport. Our John Bork has more.
It was a summer of sadness for the NHL. 3 men, 3 random deaths. All 3 were enforcers, guys who punched their way to protect a teammate. Yet their loss has been a black eye for the sport and an eye-opener for those who played it.
There are 3 tragedies that they didn't have to happen, and you know it's a sad situation.
Enforcers will readily admit to the mental and psychological toll that comes with the job, an intense range of emotions that many NHL fighters face. Stress?
Big time.
Anxiety?
Yes.
Sleepless nights?
Yes.
Depression?
Ups and downs, I wouldn't call them depression.
You can't even almost focus on regular things because all you're worrying about is who you're fighting next, who you're playing next. I mean, as soon as one fight's over, you could be on the bench and have fought in once, you're still worried about the next fight already.
Winnipeg's Rick Rippon and Nashville's Wade Belak had a much different opponent. Both men reportedly dealt with depression. Their deaths were ruled suicides. Back in May, New York Ranger Derek Boogaard was found in his apartment after accidentally consuming a lethal mix of alcohol and painkillers, a combination Todd Fedoruk is all too familiar with.
You know, with Boogie's death, it could have been me just as easily. I know I was right on the same page with that stuff, you know. You don't know how powerful some of that stuff is, and it's a miracle that I'm still here today.
Fedoruk's demons are just one glaring example of a player's obsession to self-medicate. Painkillers not just used to help overcome injuries and surgeries, but to numb the emotions and cope with the stress at the game's highest level.
They don't just kill physical pain, they kill mental pain. Take away your ability to feel, your emotion. And I mean, I think a lot of this is where depression begins. I mean, when you start numbing your thoughts and your feelings, you're not who you are. You're not mentally healthy. I understand there's a time and a place for painkillers, don't get me wrong, but they're definitely abused. They're definitely overprescribed. They're definitely mainstream street corners on the black market.
When Boogaard passed away, people talked about it and it went away. Like nobody, like for a week, people, yeah, he did this, he did that, and nobody raised a red flag. Well, somebody asked you because it's a big problem.
During his 15 years in the league, LePerriere has seen it all, playing on 5 different teams. And perhaps what's most alarming, this rampant abuse of painkillers isn't just limited to fighters. He's even seen it from the goalie to the goal scorer.
You know, I read Denis Gautier's quote. You know, he goes, he said, I was hooked on that at one point. I was looking for guys who just had surgery when they didn't need the rest of their pills. I was asking for the rest of it just to get a buzz. Well, I've seen that for the past 15 years.
You'd be surprised in how prevalent it is in people you'd never think. At the end of the day, if you're sore and you're beat up, very easy to just pop a painkiller.
That's why I did them. Yeah, you find a little bit of an escape. You don't feel like you're too messed up, and you don't get the hangover from the booze, and you can kind of function the next day. But you know, it's something that progresses in you, and eventually you're kind of it's got a hold of you.
Thankfully, help is just a phone call away. The league's substance abuse and behavioral health program is always accessible 24/7 to those who need to reach out. Maybe not surprisingly is an athlete's reluctance to make that call, a pride-swallowing admission that they're no longer in control.
If I have a problem and I'm worried about, you know, maybe some anxiety issues, this and that, I'm not going to want to pick up the phone and talk to a complete stranger that's never been in a fight before. It doesn't make sense, you know what I mean? And I would never even think about it, especially who wants advice from a guy that's never been in a battlefield. You
know, asking for help is I think one of the main things that guys just don't want to do. They think they can handle it on their own, but you know, when things get out of control, you're kind of going down a road that you need help and you got to ask for it. And so you just got to kind of, in my experience, I had to really swallow my pride and realize that I can do it on my own.
But the game's tough guys have no problem speaking out when it comes to protecting their turf. and their relevance. At a time many outside of hockey believe the league should be more health conscious by eliminating the violence and banning fighting from the sport altogether.
There are words like honor, integrity, respect, and the fighters and the guys that do our job know those things and try to stand for those things for their team, for the crest in the front of their jersey, for their teammates. We got to lose the name goon and try to take on the name guardian, because, you know, in my eyes, I looked out for my teammates so they could play better, so I could win a Stanley Cup.
Oh, he caught Fedoruk, and down goes Fedoruk. And Fedoruk will need attention.
One fight can last a minute. The punishment from it can last a lifetime. Dr. Dan Lazowick at Lankenau Medical Center has treated athletes, concussions, and the long-term consequences of repeated punches to the head.
A concussion, otherwise known as traumatic brain injury, over time will lead to a wide array of medical conditions. Depression can be one of those, dementia, Parkinson's disease. These are all potential long-term effects that we're only learning now.
Do you worry at all about your long-term prognosis?
You better believe it. At the end of the day, my brain got pushed around quite a bit, but I can live in fear. I got to live my life and see what happened. I'll deal with the consequences what I did. I don't regret anything, but to sit here and say, oh no, I don't worry about that, doesn't faze me. Well, it does.
If I think about what's going to happen a year from now, I'll sit and think about it until that day happens and probably self-destruct on that day. But for right now, I wake up every day and you know, have a daily reprieve of realizing that all I have is today.
All right, thank you, John. Well, last month, the NHL and the Players Association got together, and they both agree that things can be done to help minimize the likelihood of such events happening again.